I thought I'd just say a quick hello while I'm out and about doing things. Just check in with everybody, see how everybody's doing, and um, pretty much that's all really. I think I'm kind of getting the hang of this whole live thing, so I don't know. It might. This is kind of a practice run, I guess, for when King is home and we go live. Hopefully, I don't know how long that's going to take, by the way, for for me to get him to go live, because I know that he's probably going to want to have a minute to himself and just to relax. But anyway, let me just share this. Maybe some people come in, so let's just see. Oh, look, there's two people. Look, I don't know if you're friend or foe, but hello, hello, hello. Okay, so I was just saying that I'm just getting the hang of these lives. I'm out and about, and I thought I'd just say a quick hello and just check in with everybody, see how everybody's doing. I know there's a lot going on. There's always a lot going on with the RKelly name, and it can all be very overwhelming and can all be very daunting and also confusing. And I guess I want to encourage you all just to keep your wits about you, because there's going to be a lot of misinformation all the time regarding him, and there's nothing I can do about it or he can do about it. But there are also going to be people that will ignore the truth because it suits their agenda to keep perpetuating falsehood or false stories, because they don't have sincere intentions of being online. They're just online because they're getting attention, they're getting community, they're getting something back that's not authentic, and they're going to just keep perpetuating falsehood no matter what I've posted, about my conversations with Jennifer Bongine and her communication back to me. No matter what I've posted about all of that, people are going to ignore it because it doesn't suit the agenda that these people are playing online. They want to fight with each other. They want to just create mess. They're addicted to toxic, chaos. They're addicted to fighting, and it's quite surprising to me that they've kept this going for 3 years. It's shocking that they're not exhausted by this, like just coming at each other all the time. I'm just exhausted from like just hearing some of the stories that these people are telling about each other. I'm exhausted by just conflict. I think if you get so used to conflict, if you get so used to chaos, and you don't want more for yourself, you can start to think that's reality and that's normality, and it's not normal. It's not normal, and it's not healthy. I mean, eventually your blood pressure is going to go up. You're going to have high blood pressure. You're going to have health issues. You may even have a heart attack. And that's the problem, is that people are not thinking long term. They don't really care about their lives. They're just here to exist. They're just here to have a good time, here to have a good laugh. They're just living for the moment. And one thing my mother used to always tell me, and it was a criticism actually. She used to always say, "You kids only live for the moment." And I used to get so frustrated with her, because I'd be like, of course, this is all there is this moment. Why do you have to think about tomorrow? But the older I got, the more I started to see how important it is to think about tomorrow, to think about the big picture, not just to live for the moment. And I understand it. Hello, Shannon. How are you today? Thank you for joining us. Anyway, if anyone feels like just saying hello, please feel free to say hello. Don't be shy. I don't bite. And you may not get many lives like this with me. I'm not somebody who does lives. I'm not somebody who likes to put myself out there. I do this purely because I think sometimes it's just good for you guys to know that I'm real and that I'm a real person, and I'm not just somebody living some life that and I know you can't see my life. It's impossible. I don't screenshot my life, for the public as yet. But this channel may change and evolve like that with me and King. I do really hope to actually include more footage of our life. more on the other channels than this channel, because this channel I think is going to be more about conversations. I want him to have a place where he can actually talk and speak freely and say whatever it is he wants to say, answer questions even, and just connect with people. Because the one thing I told him is, don't try to contact people out here for interviews and all of that, because the people that are misleading you, that these people are trustworthy and reliable and care about you, but they don't care about him. That some of these people that he has spoken to, they don't care about him and they don't believe in him, and they don't care enough to do anything about what he tells them, so they just take it as something to use as part of their content. This is what I've been trying to relay to King, that people out here don't care. And so he needs to set up his own platform, this is what I told him. I have a platform for you. It's ready. You know about it. You just have to wait. You have to wait it out and then come on. Once you're home, you can come on. Hello, Princess Di. I remember you because I remember the name. Hello. So yes, I've been telling him just wait, because so he can come onto this platform and say exactly what he wants to say. This is his platform. This is his free space where, I'm just holding space for him. This is not my platform. I'm holding space for him. I set this up for him so that when he comes home, and trust me, it's literally within any minute, any day, any hour. Right now, it's literally happening. And I promise you, don't believe and listen to anything his attorney is saying right now. She doesn't know what I've been doing. She doesn't know who I've contacted. I didn't include her in any of this because she's already sabotaged and destroyed, some of his, all of my efforts. And so I never included Jennifer Bonjean in what I was doing. I actually went directly to the people that had the authority to release him, and who I knew no one else could dispute. I went directly to those people with his story, with his truth, with the evidence of who I am, with the evidence of who he, the kind of character he is, to stand beside him and to be a witness for his character and his true character, not the one that these women are misrepresenting as this monster. Because the thing about it is, unless you've been in an intimate relationship with somebody, you cannot know what their character is like. So anyway, expect it. Really just hold tight, and just the news is coming. I promise you, it's in the pipeline as we speak. And that's all I can say. I can't tell you anymore, because the more I speak, the more I feel that, somebody might try to take this beautiful, magical miracle that's happening right now. And I don't, King coming home is an absolute. It's just an absolute. There is no if, buts or maybes, and it's got nothing to do with his appeal. It's got to do with, I've been working on this since last August, and it's not been something I just popped up and did. I didn't just write one letter. There have been a series of communications since last August to get him home, and it's literally at that stage now. So where it's done, you just have to wait to hear about it. You just have to wait to hear. And they're not going to tell you when it happens. They're not going to tell me, because it is a security risk for him, because he's so high profile. They have to organize everything. If they move him anywhere, they have to do it very low key, very quiet, so that he's safe. And I appreciate that. I don't want his safety in any way to be jeopardized, especially at this last stage. So please pray for him. Please pray for this process, and that it happens quickly, and that he's protected. Yes, he is okay, Princess Di. He's doing well. But there's, obviously, he has his moments. The biggest thing that I talk to him about, we have very little communication because of so many different things. We're dealing with an issue of people listening into his calls. We're dealing with an issue that his attorneys have been misrepresenting him, so he's very cautious about what he communicates to me, because he knows people are listening, and that they don't have his best intentions, and they will use that to convict him or like accuse him of lying, especially if they catch him talking to me and, you know, us conversing about what I'm doing. So, but from what I know, from everything that we're communicating together, it's all about faith with us. We're talking about faith, and we're being like, I've encouraged him to have his faith completely strong right now. That's the best thing you can do for anybody going through anything, is to encourage their faith in God, not in themselves, but in God, because that's all we have. You know, that's all we have is God. You know, because when people abandon you, and when even you feel like abandoning yourself because things are so difficult, then all you have is God. So you've really got to have your relationship with God strong. So I've been talking to him about that, just about being faithful, about not giving up, about just, you know, and not talking to people, not dealing with the public right now, just focusing on God, because that is all he needs. He's done everything he needed to do. I've done everything I needed to do, you know. So right now it's all about just waiting for the news, and I'm just encouraging you all just to wait for that news. But this is the platform he's going to come on when he's home. He knows this is his platform. He knows where to come. And, you know, I've discouraged him against doing any interviews at all, because the interviews he's done have not been genuine, not been 100%. He hasn't been able to speak about me. He hasn't been able to speak about us. He's had to relay all of this fake information that his attorneys put on his motions, and, you know, about Joycelyn Savage, and that's because of Bonjean, and that's because of Greenberg. So he hasn't been able to say what he wanted to say. So you're not hearing his whole story. You're hearing about his experiences in prison and with this system, but you're not hearing the full story of how he got here, and about Azrael Clary and Joycelyn Savage and his lawyers and his attorneys, because there's so much he can't say when he's in there. So he's been just trying to, I guess, fill in gaps for people, but at the same time not being able to be truthful, and that's just not fair for him, and it's not fair for me, and it's not fair for you, the public, because you're not hearing who he really is. You're not getting his full story. So I've been trying to tell people to wait. The only truth you're going to get is through me and him talking together, because he cannot speak until he's home. He cannot speak openly. And I can only say so much, because there's a lot of things that he and I need to fill in together, because we've not been able to talk about a lot of things. As you know, if people are listening into your every conversation, every word, reading every letter, every postcard, every email, then you just don't get to say everything you need to say, because you have to be strategic. You have to be as smart as they are. You have to know what they're doing and the potential of what they might do. And that's the thing. He's always thinking about that more than me. I think because he's in a position where, you know, I can speak more freely. I'm free to hear what he has to say, but I understand. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I can't wait for him to talk to you guys. I can't wait for him to say all of this himself, because when he says it, it's a whole different thing from when I say it, because I can say it, but it's like only half a person speaking right now, you know, because you're not hearing it from the person who's experiencing it. You're not hearing it from the person who has the voice to say and give validation to everything I've been saying for the last 3 years. You know, what you've heard from him, you know, in conversations through other people is just his experiences in prison, which are authentic. The things, his experiences in this process have been real. The things that you've heard about his experiences, but when you hear him say, you know, things like, you know, I'm engaged, and, you know, Joycelyn Savage is my love. He has to say that, because he's already put that on his motions. He cannot, if somebody asks him, what about Joycelyn Savage? He cannot then go and say, well, I don't know her. She's an intern, and my attorneys told me to lie about her. You know, they put that. He can't say any of that stuff. Only I can say that, because I'm free. But he is under this, you know, first of all, he has his attorney, Jennifer Bonjean, who you have no idea the level of sociopathy that I've had to deal with her. You all think that she's a good person, but you've got to understand, a lot of these people are portraying themselves themselves as good people, but they're not. And we've made the mistake time and time again of trusting people. And you think that you can trust these attorneys, of all people. You think you can trust lawyers, especially somebody like her who's come from freeing other people and helping other people come home. You just think, I had all the hopes in the world for her. I was her biggest supporter, her biggest fan. I was the first person to congratulate her, the first person to have the conversations with her. I was filling her in with everything she missed, and she said that she was taking notes, that she was on my side, she was listening, and that she only had his best interests at heart. And then she turned on me, and then she turned on both of us by doing that, by putting on his motions false information. So that put us in the worst predicament that you can imagine. I was so petrified because I knew it was going to be an absolute disaster. And her arrogance and her connection to Stephen Greenberg had gotten the better of her. And that's what happened, is she still had that connection with Stephen Greenberg, who you all know we could not trust. He was a horrible attorney. At least, Jennifer Bonjean actually has a history of doing this, of helping people come home. But Stephen Greenberg had none of that. We kind of, King actually just had already built up a relationship with him through, other legal matters that he helped him with. And so he thought he could trust him. But Greenberg turned out to be just an absolute narcissist. He started slandering King when things didn't go well. He went to the media and started saying that King's not listening, and like giving kind of covert slants, and it was just so toxic. It was just so belittling. And when I reached out to him to kind of tell him who I was, he completely ignored me. And when other people did, he told them he wasn't interested in King's private life at all. And this is his lead attorney who was telling people this. And I have that in writing where he responds to people saying he's just not interested in King's private life. So this is somebody who would then go to the media and say King has 2 girlfriends. This is somebody who is like lying to the media, but then saying it's none of his business. So you have to see, we've been dealing with back-to-back sociopaths, narcissists, and liars who don't care about him, who don't have his best interests at heart. And the problem is there have been other people too online who have channels that don't have his best interests at heart. And they've fed into this. It's been like a machine that you cannot stop, because it just goes round in circles, all this wrong information, and it doesn't go anywhere. Because I've been the only breaking link in that, in the false stories, the only truth in this, because King has not been able to be 100% truthful, like from the get-go, because he had Stephen Greenberg from the get-go. Greenberg was there at the Gayle King interview, and this was just before King and I had got together. So when he did that interview, he and I we're not like, technically or officially, I should say, together. So, but I had already told him, don't lie. I didn't know he was doing the interview that day. It happened so quickly, when he got called to do it, and and it was set up for him, and it was the crisis manager who ended up being a fraud, Daryl Johnson, who set that up. So you can imagine a fraud and then a narcissist in Greenberg, and we're dealing with these 2 con artists, and they set up that Gayle King interview without his best intentions at heart. I had no idea that interview was going to go down. Had I known, I would have grilled King about it. I would have said, what are they going to ask you? What is, who's going to attend it? What are you going to say? I would have prepared him, but I had no time, because when I heard about the interview after it happened. So, and of course I had no, we were very close at that time, but he had so much going on. He didn't have time to be relaying to me everything that was happening with him. So, it was just, I had to just go with it at that time, because I just had no, I had no information. I didn't have all the information I needed to. But when I did hear about it, I said to him, look, first of all, I said, why did these 2 girls lie that they were in a relationship with you when they were interns? They lied on TV. But I heard his side of it, which was, he tried to say the truth, which was that his words were that they were almost like his girlfriends. And if you understand the English language, King is a master of language, if nothing else. I mean, people can call him, I mean, he has dyslexia and people can call him illiterate. He's not illiterate. He has dyslexia, which is a whole different thing. So it means that he can, but he's actually incredible with communication when it comes to words. And when he says it's almost like, you have to think about, if you're almost like a pilot, are you a pilot? No, you are like almost like, you're not even a pilot. So when somebody says somebody's almost like my boyfriend or almost like my girlfriend, it means they're not your girlfriend and they're not your boyfriend. But that's not what the public heard, that's not what his fans heard, and that's not what people are hearing. They hear what they want to hear every time he speaks. So that was the first time he spoke about it. And that just roller coasted into, oh, they're his girlfriends. Because, of course, these two women, they were bent on being his girlfriends. That was their fantasy. That was their absolute dream. So when they thought when they thought he said they were his girlfriends, they ran with that, on Gao King. So that's why they said, oh, we're sharing him and all of that. So, and then it just became a disaster because Greenberg took that and used it as his defense and implanted it without even consulting with King about, this is, are you okay with all of this? What happened to Daryl Johnson, if may I ask? Daryl Johnson was a fraud. He was okay. He's a guy who came in, and Greenberg actually called him in. Greenberg, okay, again. So you see there's a chain of these people. So everybody's connected to each other. Greenberg brought Daryl Johnson in as a crisis manager to help King deal with all of this crisis. And he's supposed to be like a support person, somebody who gave him advice and helped him manage the crisis, because that's what he promoted himself as somebody experienced in crisis managing. Yeah, they're all connected. Greenberg was friends with Jennifer Bonjean. He's the one that got Jennifer Bonjean on board. So there's this connection, there's this complete chain of events of people that all know each other. Greenberg is friends, were old colleagues with Jennifer Bonjean, and then you've got Daryl Johnson, who was brought in by Greenberg. It's just been a complete disaster. Daryl Johnson it was a fraud. It was promoting himself as a crisis manager to a number of celebrities, not just King, but taking advantage of people. And you can look up his story on YouTube about how many people he conned money out of, by his scam of being a crisis manager, of being a life coach and all these things that he was, presenting himself as somebody who was authentic. And I think he's now being charged with fraud because a number of people sued him for that. That's why he disappeared, because, he got caught out by the authorities because people caught him. And of course Greenberg denied any connection with him and denied being at the Gayle King interview, even though you can see him in the kitchen. You see how these people lie to you guys? These attorneys that you think are authentic, He fully said that he wasn't at the Gayle King interview. He was there. He was there, and he was part of setting up that Gayle King interview that ended up being an absolute disaster and putting King in a worse position than he could have been, because he should never have spoken, and he should definitely never have put those two girls on camera like that, because everything was not checked. Everything did not have any kind of protection for him. None of this has ever been done in a way that's protected him. Everybody's been out for themselves. Greenberg only had money in his mind. He's thinking, I have this huge superstar, huge case. He doesn't care if he wins. He was getting paid money, huge amounts of money to begin with. And not just that, just being able to attach himself to the RKelly name, brand name, was huge for him. Whether he lost or won, it was going to be huge for him, because he can say, I've had huge clients like RKelly. And that's the thing. People don't realise that these people all, even Jennifer Bonjean, she doesn't care because she's not getting paid huge amounts of money from King. That's the problem with Jennifer Bonjean. Is I think for her, it's more a case of, well, I'm not getting paid a lot of money to actually put across your truth. So I'm just going to keep going with the story that the Greenberg was being feeding through, because I'm not going to start again. And that's really what I felt happened with her, because Greenberg was giving her all this information about the case and everything. She got rid of all of his attorneys, and I thought that was actually going to be a good move, because I thought, oh wow, she's got a really good team. It's going to go great. We can trust her. She's got experience. She got rid of all of them. And then what she started to do, and then she was only communicating with me. So this is the thing people don't understand. She was communicating with me. Yeah, I am. Thank you so much, Michelle. And Atlanta, welcome. So the thing about it is she was communicating with me and Greenberg on the other side of that. And that's why she disconnected communication with me when I challenged her. And I've got all of those communications with Jennifer Bonjean when I challenged her so harshly about her lies on his motions. And I said, why are you doing this to us? Why are you doing it to him? Why have you not checked with him? She told me point blank she'd not checked it with him. Imagine your own client. You're writing motions. He has dyslexia. That he's already had a history of people not reading to him his own motions, not actually including him in his own defense. And then you go to put on his defense that he has two girlfriends that you've already been informed are not his girlfriends, because when she came on board, it was a clean slate, and I told her everything. And I said, go to Mr. Kelly and check all of this with him. Everything I'm saying to you, I'm the one that can speak for him, because I'm the only person he can trust at this point, and the only person who knows these things at this point. And I said, but you need to go to him and you need to check off all of these things. And she said she was taking notes, all of that. She misled me into believing I could trust her. So I had my guard down completely in telling her all of the things that we had experienced with Greenberg. And instead of her and she portrayed to me as somebody who had great empathy and compassion, and I was really excited. I was like, finally, we have somebody who's not just capable of helping him, she's actually, moral, and she cares. And then what happened is she put through motion saying that Azrael and King had this long-term relationship. And I thought, what the hell happened? You just told me that you understand and that you're, and I went back to her, I said, why did you do that? And she said, and she palmed me off, like, I don't know how to describe it to you, but the way that she manipulates words was kind of like, I'm just doing what I have to do to get him home. And I said, no, you can't do that. You've got to be honest. I've already told you that never happened, and you cannot portray her as his long-term partner, and, so but then she put in another motion again, like reiterating this same story that Greenberg had been perpetuating about them being in a threesome and a three-way relationship. She did it again, and I said, we were literally arguing, but not even arguing, because I don't do that, but I was communicating with her, like, why are you doing this to us? We've already told you. You said you're taking notes. And then I said point blank to her, have you checked this with Mr. Kelly? Because this happened within a series of like a few weeks, so it was very fast, and even I didn't get a chance to talk to. Sorry, I'm out and about and there's children crying, and I might need to cut this because I'm not going to be able to talk. But so I said, why did you do it? And I never got a really clear answer from her as to why she was doing it, except that she felt that it was the best thing for him. And, but she'd never checked this with him, never confirmed it, and never okayed it with him, especially the whole engagement thing. She told me point blank, she got that from the government, the US government. So here she is, she's getting fed information from other people, not her client and not her client's partner. And then the information I'm giving her on his behalf for her to check with him, she's not checking with him. She's going and getting information from the US government that she's fighting. The same people that she's fighting, she's getting information from, and even told me point blank she knows it's false, but she's still including it. So you see how this is like such a convoluted situation that I have not been able to even express properly, because He's not going to trust anyone anymore. That's the truth. That's the truth. Yes, it's Bonjean I'm speaking about that did all this, And if you go through my community board, you can see some of my conversations I posted. But back when it happened, I posted all these conversations. Just people weren't interested. People didn't want to know. They really, really were hung up on this three-way relationship. They were like invested in whatever was happening with Azrael and Joycelyn. I kept saying these two are just interns. Ignore them. Everything they say is lies. There was no relationship. It was an internship. They lived at the studio. Then they lived in their own apartment at Trump that they were paying from their salary because they worked as assistants. They worked helping him make bookings and running errands and getting shopping and walking the dog. And that's what they did. They did nothing. They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything of value anyway. They were there to learn music, But the problem is what happened when we will hear anything about the New York appeal. Princess, just as I was saying to you, just wait and see what's going to happen in the next few days, the next number of days, because I've been working with some other people behind Bonjean, because the whole appeal thing, forget about that, okay? Because what he's coming home through is the people that have authority to actually release him are going to release him. And you've got to trust that, because I've relayed to them all of this corruption that's happened with his attorneys. And it's actually, what has happened is it's gross misconduct. And it's not, it compromises everything from the beginning to the end, because from the beginning, his charges for New York were all based on Azrael. So, if his attorneys are saying that, he's in a relationship with her, and I'm saying I'm saying that there was no relationship. You see how that compromises everything, because if he had no sexual or other romantic relationship with her, it means he is not guilty in the least bit. He's not even guilty of even thinking about it, because he never was interested. But his attorneys kept putting on his motions that they had a sexual and romantic relationship, which compromised everything, because it was false, fake, and fraudulent. And it was convicting. It convicted him, because it made him guilty just by association, just by the very idea that he had a relationship with her. And I kept saying there was no relationship. This is what you're not getting. But when Bonjean came in, actually, I haven't even talked about Kanik, but I've made a video about that. Kanik was the one I communicated first with, and he got it, and he actually did speak to Savage, wasn't included in his New York trial. And this is when I started communicating with the people I was now recently communicating with for his release, because I was like, this has to stop. It all has to stop right here. And that was August. It was August last year. It was around the trial time is when I started my campaign, my private campaign. So just really ignore the whole appeal thing. It's not how he's coming home, I promise you. He's going to be released, pardoned. And I'm not just saying this, if you can imagine, the only two people that can release him are going to release him. That's all I can say to you. And I just really hope that you listen to me when I say that. Ignore this whole thing. There's so much about his appeal, but the corruption that's gone down, the appeal is rubbish, because it's based on corruption. It's based on false information. It's based on relationships he was never in. So we can't even use the appeal information, because no matter what Jennifer Bonjean puts on that appeal, it's going to be fraudulent. So this is why he's going to be released, because everything these attorneys have done has been fraudulent. It's been corrupted from the beginning. They've lied to his judges. They've lied to the public. They've lied. And they've not included their own client, who is the person whose life is who's fighting for his life. They've not included him. They've not got the permission to say the fraudulent things they've said. Because knowing that he has dyslexia, knowing that he is at a disadvantage because he can't read his own motions, like other people can, and it's been like that since the beginning. So this is why I've been able to campaign for his release, without this whole appeal, because it's been corrupted, not just on the other side, on this side too. On his side, his own attorneys have corrupted this. So there's not the possibility of going through an appeal using this fraudulent information of relationships that never happened. It's ludicrous to even think about. And I'd never wanted to even contemplate him having to go through an appeal using the information that these attorneys were using on his motions, because it was fraudulent and it was fake and it was damaging and it made him look guilty, and that's the problem. It made him look guilty because if somebody tells, imagine I think it was something like at least half of the charges or most of the charges for his New York trial were based on her, RKelly. And his judge's hearing from his attorneys, yes, they had this romantic long-term relationship. They were living together. They were never living together, Imagine this is what Judge Anne Donnelly is hearing. Do you know what I mean? And then the prosecution is saying, yeah, their relationship started before she was 18, their sexual relationship, and he took her across state lines, and that's why it became a federal case, and, this is what is all going on through their heads, because this is the information his attorneys are feeding them, instead of feeding them the truth, which is, no, these girls were just interns. They lived at the studio, and then they moved to Trump Tower, where they were paying an apartment. And if you look, it was in RKelly's name. And in fact, RKelly wrote letters long after they met saying that he was never interested in her. No matter what she tried, he had no sexual or romantic interest in her. And it upset her because she was in love with him, but there was nothing else she could do. But she ended up staying there in that situation because she kept saying to King that she was being abused at home. Same with Joycelyn Savage. This is how they got into this is why King let them stay around him, because his compassion was so deep for them and for women that all they had to say was, I'm being abused by my mother and father, sexually. I'm talking about sexual abuse here. And this might get taken off the internet, but I'm being very honest with you. This is what they told him. This is how they got him to let them stay. Meanwhile, these two women were telling their families, because their families were invested in them getting him into bed. So they're telling their families, well, we did it. Towards the end of it, you had Joycelyn Savage telling her father, yeah, there's something going on. And this is why there is a confession I have on video, on her voice recording, saying that she lied to her family, because she did. She was lying to her family that something was going on with King. And RKelly started to do the same in the end, and misleading their families, because their families were so invested in it. That's what they wanted. But what happened then after that is it gave their families leverage to blackmail and extort King with lies, with, if you're sleeping with our daughters, then give us money. And King's like, wait 1 second here. Who told you I'm sleeping with your daughters? And that's why King was like, I need to get to the bottom of this, and had Joycelyn Savage do that recording saying she was confessing to lying. This is why he kept letters of people confessing, because people kept lying to other people and then coming back to him and saying, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. And the mistake that King made was to actually take them back. If that was me, if I had been around at that time, I would have said, get this person out of here. In fact, get the authorities. I would have called the police on these people immediately. These people were con artists. But King, coming from the background he comes from, I think he accepted too many people doing too many scandalous and scamming things, and coming back to him saying, I'm so sorry I stole your watch, I'm so sorry, I'll make that up to you, I'll do whatever, you can dock my pay. And then King would say, okay, as long as you can write it down what you've done, in case you come back and try and sue me for docking your pay. And so they would write these confessions down. I stole R. Kelly's watch or whatever. I did this or I did that. And King would keep this. And this is what the prosecution used against him, saying that he coerced people to do these confessions. Meanwhile, he was abusing people. You see how they turned everything around, everything good that he'd tried to do to protect himself, including videoing himself with these women. He videoed himself for a reason. It wasn't. His attorneys years ago told him, if you want to protect yourself, then keep video log of the women you're with so they can never say they never consented. So even that they turned around to say, well, he videoed them to sell for pornography. You see how they turn everything around? So this is the thing that you've all got to understand, that this is how we got here. I'm giving you a very brief overview, but this is how we got here, because you've got people lying everywhere. Everybody's a liar. Everybody's a con artist. Everybody wants to be famous. Everybody wants to be his girlfriend. Everybody. Everybody wants to be associated with him, but no one's honest. Absolutely no one is honest except for him. He's the most honest out of all of them, and he has not been able to be as honest as he wanted to be. And I'm not saying he's been honest completely with the women that he's been with in the past. I would be, like, there's no kind of delusion in my head about, the kind of relationships he had before me. I'm not deluded in thinking that, he was loyal to these women. He had girlfriends. He had, he was seeing different women at the same time, but he was very open with them at the same time as to who he was, Yeah, that's right, Princess Di. But yeah, he was very open with these women as to who he was. He never lied about it. He was like, it was no secret who R. Kelly was, right? Everybody would know when you approach R. Kelly, he's probably going to have a few girlfriends. So if you want to be one of his girlfriends, then you're going to have to take a number and consider that as part of, the deal. And these women would be like, yeah, no worries. Absolutely. Sure. Anything you want, R. Kelly, because they would say anything just to be around him, and then the second, that, he had these hordes of women, as most celebrity men do, especially when they're young, hordes of women lining up, wanting to be with him, and then they started getting jealous and fighting with each other, and oh my God, she's getting first place, or she gets more time with him. This is what happens, even with people that have like more than one wife. You ask anybody, like anyone from like a Muslim or other culture who have more than one wife, there's always going to be jealousies and envy that creeps in. And you imagine in this situation, yeah, it was just the same thing. These women were fighting over him, fighting to get time, fighting to be the one, fighting just to be number one, fighting for his love and affection. Meanwhile, they knew the deal that they came in on, which was just, no, I'm seeing different women, and if you're okay with that, then you're okay with that. If you're happy to hang with me and just let me just date, whoever I like, and it's not right. Look, if you want to, morally, it's not the best thing for him. It was never the best thing for him, but that's where he was at. He was being authentic with who he was and where he was at, because the disaster of him being married, and I don't want to get into his marriage. I want him to talk about that because it's very sensitive, because you've got children, like his children who he loves, involved. But I will say this, I think that, that whole marriage with, Drea started off on the wrong foot, because it's already an open relationship. So you cannot just then go get married and then go, well, actually now I just want us to have a closed relationship, when you're already having an open relationship with him, and you're in fact, involved in the open relationship. It was a disaster. It was meant to be a disaster, because the difference between King and I and other relationships he's had is, from the get-go, I was like, this is R. Kelly. I need to make sure this man, and I'm going to get really personal here, so hold your horses. I was like, my mindset was, this is R. Kelly. I was very, very, very aware of who his character was from what I knew of him. I was getting to know him in two different levels, as a person, but also I knew him as a fan of his music for years. But I was like, this is R. Kelly. This is Robert Sylvester Kelly, the one who, and I was not somebody who would ever date anybody from the industry. But the thing about it is, could you tell me, did he divorce her? Yeah, he was the one that instigated the divorce, But I want him to tell you about that when we do the interview, because it's such a sensitive issue, Princess Di. You've got to excuse me. I'm very respectful of, what I share, because, he's my partner. He's somebody I love and respect more than anybody in this world, and I would never want to share anything that he would not want me to share. So when it comes to his marriage, that's very it's a very sensitive issue, because that's real. That's a real relationship that happened, and with children, and he did love her. And so there's a lot going on there that I think only he can explain, and only he has a right to explain. I cannot explain that for him because, I can only explain little bits like what I think, as in terms of him and her having that open relationship, at the beginning, and that being the disaster, and what made it toxic. But anyway, getting off of that, the women that he was dating openly, they all knew the deal, but they all somehow changed their own minds about what they wanted, and decided, no, actually, I'm not happy with this situation, and I want to be number one. And, King has evolved past all of that. He's a mature man. People grow, people change. But the thing is, the world didn't evolve. The people around him didn't evolve. And they didn't let him grow, I think, because everybody still expected him to be RKelly, the sex god, the baby making music man. They wanted him to be that image. And you've got to imagine, you're changing as a person. You want stability, you want, you want quiet. If anybody is over 40, you understand what I'm talking about, especially 45. And men, it happens a little bit later in life, but you do change. What you want in life changes. You want quiet, you want stability, you want just to have safety, and you want your family around you. I think he just wanted more time with his children. Things changed for him, as he grew older. So, and when we met, it was at the time, the perfect time for that for him, because he was already ready for what, for more, but it had been building up over years, because you become lonely after a while when you're surrounded by just vultures and parasites, This is Kel's for real. Yes, it is for real, for real, for real. Absolutely, for real. No matter what people tell you, this is happening. As real as I am, he and I are, I promise you. I've never been somebody who ever invested in lies. I think lying or fraud or pretending to be somebody is the lowest degree of humanity, the lowest thing you could possibly do. So I would never in my life do that to you guys, to anybody. Like, I would never in my life even consider portraying myself as something I'm not. I promise you, if I had not been with him, there's no way I'd have a video channel. I'd probably be supporting him in the background as a friend, because no matter what, when I heard his story and what was going on with him, I was going to support him anyway, because when you know the truth, you don't want to stand back and just let somebody innocent just suffer. But because I am his partner, his girlfriend, I know it was my responsibility to come online and do whatever I could, even though I'm a completely private person. Like, I'm deeply private. Like, I hate, I hate all that fame stuff. Like, I don't understand it. In fact, I don't understand how people chase after it. I mean, I had a lot of opportunities when I was younger to be famous. I was a musician myself in my younger years, and I used to sing, and I was in a girl group, and I remember people telling me, you've got the kind of voice and look, and you can dance. You could be really big. Like, if you applied yourself, you could be a really big recording artist. And I remember thinking, oh my God, no, I don't want that. I remember running so fast from fame and so far away. And that's why I gave up music, in fact. I gave up music because I did not want to be famous. So for me, it blows my mind how people could chase it, lie about it, want to put somebody in prison just to be famous. I can't understand it, because for me, the choice was, at that time when I was young, I had my family, I had my close friends, and I was actually in a relationship with a guy that I thought I would marry at the time when I was younger. And so I was like, there's no way I'm sacrificing all of this good stuff that I had, this real stuff, for what's not real, And so I refused the offers. And I was being coached by the same singing coach and the same singing trainer as Patti LaBelle. and some of the greats, so that's the level of singing I was doing. Why do the people on YouTube think you're lying about who you are? To Kels, respectfully, I know Princess Di breaks my heart, because you know what, I've tried to explain it quite a lot of times. When I first came online about 3 years ago now, when this happened, I didn't come online immediately, because I thought, oh, who's going to believe me, and what am I going to do, and where do I start with all of this? I sat online in my own accounts, my private accounts, just watching and reading things that were happening and reading what people were saying. But eventually I started to come out and say, okay, I would start to tell stories about me and King. And one of these fanatical, kind of psychopathic, psychotic people got wind of me online, and she started to pull information from my account, and she started to spread lies about me immediately. And I didn't know this was happening until somebody came to me and said, do you know that there's a girl that's actually saying that you're a liar, you're a fraud, that you're claiming to be pregnant by RKelly? Do you know she set up a whole account over here called Fake Wives of RKelly, and it's all about you? And I was like, I was devastated. You can imagine, I was just like, what in the world? And who is this woman, and why would she do that? I could not understand it, because for the life of me, I would never do this to another person. I could not even comprehend what was going through her head that would make her do that, except that she's not mentally well, and she's also obsessed with him. And so she started to do this, and I found out that she had a number of fake fan accounts. And so she would use these fake fan accounts to say to people, oh no, don't trust her, she's a liar. Oh, don't listen to her, she's a liar. Every time people would start to listen to me or trust me, I found, one of her fake accounts would come in and say, no, don't listen to her, she said she's pregnant by RKelly, blah, blah, blah. She would use these fake accounts to spread lies about me. And before I knew it, the whole fan base believed I was a fraud, and I hadn't even properly come out as his girlfriend. So I was devastated, to be honest with you, because I was just like, I'm just here to help him. I just want to help him. I just want him home. And how can I do that when everybody thinks I'm lying and the fake and fraud and a stalker because of this one person? And this person, I'll tell you, I've been investigating her since that time, because fans of other celebrities have come to me and said, this woman's been doing it for 10 years and she's not stopped. She has a number of celebrities that she does this with, and she attacks their fans, and she attacks anyone that's attached to these celebrities. So she's clearly mentally, we're talking about somebody who has a very strong personality disorder, a number of mental health issues. And this is not unlike the accusers, who are exactly in the same boat. They have personality disorders, they have mental health issues. They're sick people, mentally and emotionally sick people that cannot do the right thing. And they have no conscience, these people, and they don't care who they hurt, and they don't care what laws they break. I mean, this woman who I'm talking about has even been running the fake Joycelyn Savage account for quite a number of months. And I knew that because I was investigating her privately, because I was trying to build up some information so that we could take legal action if it got worse. And so I found out she was running the fake Joycelyn Savage account. But who's going to, I tried to post that, but again, people are not listening. So this is where we're at, So yeah, this is where we're at. So, but the people that are telling you that I'm a fraud, you've got to understand they're not very good people, because if they're good people, they would come to my channel, they would listen to what I have to say, they would explore the information I have and all the evidence I've posted, and they would say, wow, she's actually very authentic, very real, and and that's the thing, they don't. What they do is they run with the slander and the gossip. They grab it and they run with it, and then they tell each other and they feed each other this. And this is exactly what happened to King, isn't it? Isn't this what happened to King? That people heard stories about him, and then instead of fact checking and checking the background of the person who's giving them the information, they ran with it and told each other. And before you knew it, everybody's believing that he's this monster. And it's exactly the same thing that's, people believe about me, that I'm a fraud because of this woman. And, I've done nothing. I've done absolutely nothing but sit and do the right thing and tell the truth. But the problem is too, you've got a lot of people out there that are not good people. They're not here for him. They're not here to help him. They don't care if he comes home. They say they do, but they don't. Because if you do care, you're going to fact check what people say. You're going to see if there's authenticity in what they're saying, if they can provide you with evidence of what they're saying. Everything I say, I provide evidence for, but people are not watching and listening to what I provide. So then they come back to me and say, well, why hasn't he validated you? Do you know that it was, I think, January, I think it was about a year ago or so, King actually did call someone to validate who I was, because I asked him to. I asked him to call a YouTuber, but that YouTuber wasn't on his side for real either. Yet we thought she was, because she portrays a spiritual person online. We trusted her, both King and I. And when he called her, when I told her he would call, instead of actually saying, wow, this lady Juliet told me he was going to call me, because I said that to her, and I posted it publicly. I said, King is going to call you within 2 weeks to tell you, to validate who I am, so then I can then help you guys to defend him. And instead of taking that information and sharing that with people, she portrayed me as a crazy. And you see how the cycle continues, because already about the girls and the parents before it had even come out. So I know, speaking the truth, I had been speaking this from the beginning, Princess Di. It's just sometimes it takes people some time to come into the conversation with me, and so then they come in when I've already spent a number of months or something providing evidence and proof and conversations with his attorneys and all of that, and they come in and they don't know what's going on, but they're hearing things from other people. So it just takes people some time to catch up as to what's going on. And some people come in to the conversation and it's like, oh, this isn't what I've heard from everybody else, so you must be the one that's the liar. And again, isn't that what's going on with King? It's like everybody else is saying something about him, and then the very few people that are saying, no, that's not true, that's not who he is. It's like, it's a power of numbers. Whenever you're dealing with sociopathic people, it's always the power of numbers. They always try to get as many people on board saying the same thing. And this is why this woman she has probably I've blocked at least 20 accounts of hers. So she must have at least more than 100 fake accounts online, pretending to be a RKelly fan, a new RKelly fan, and she uses different names. And so you imagine all these people that think that she's real, and she's got about 5 accounts saying, no, that woman's a fraud. And it's like the power of numbers. If 5 people online are saying, why, that woman, Lady Juliet's a fraud, she's lying, she's a fake, she's a stalker, the attorney said they don't know her. Imagine 5 different accounts, you're hearing that, and you think it's 5 different people. The power of numbers is so powerful in human psychology that we don't ourselves, we understand how we get tripped up so quickly with that. It's like when you walk past a shop, right, and you see a lot of people in a shop. How many times you go, oh my God, what's happening in that shop? Let me go and see. Just because there's a lot of people in that shop. So whenever we have to be aware of this as humans, our ability to be misled and brainwashed and even turned against innocent people because of this psychology that evil people use against innocent people. The psychology, the thing about evil people is they're very well trained in human psychology, because they've been manipulating people from a young age. So they watch people and how people respond to things. And if you're not somebody who understands the psychology of evil, the psychology of evil intended people, you're either somebody that's going to be used by an evil person, or you're somebody that's going to just fall into the trap of believing them and yourself get hurt by an evil person. So this is the thing, King was never ever educated like on the level of human psychology of mental illness, mental health problems, because I've had to really teach him about personality disorders, about narcissism, about sociopathy, about what's really the problem with these people, because he can't understand how people can go from loving him so much to hating him and lying about being abused by him. He cannot comprehend it. Like as RKelly, how she can go from one day from what he perceived as a sweet girl to somebody who's telling the world that he is abusing her and all of these lies about him. And it's the same personality of person that's done this to him as somebody who has a personality disorder, has mental health issues. And King was just not educated about all of that stuff. And it's the same with some of you guys, some of the public that, listen to me or watch. You're not educated, some of you, enough about psychology and about how people evolve into this kind of evil, And I'm so surprised that that the world actually, that most of America fell for this, because I thought that we'd come a long way. I mean, we have all of these channels about crime and about, how people start to, women, betray men, and, how it all happens. We have so many conversations about that. We have so many channels and so many shows about that. So I don't understand how people were misled by a group of people saying the same thing. We all have to educate ourselves. And I never used to watch these crime channels because I thought, it used to make me feel icky. I used to feel very icky watching crime channels because I thought this has got nothing to do with me and I'm never going to attract this into my life. And if I start thinking about it, maybe I will attract some, some situation I don't want. So my mother used to watch it sometimes and she used to be so intrigued and she used to say to me, you need to watch this stuff. You need to watch these crime channels and just to educate yourself and learn about the people that are out there. And I was in my safe little bubble, like, with my family, my friends, everybody's beautiful, everybody's loving, everybody's kind. So I never would comprehend ever meeting evil in the face through somebody I love, But then because of this stuff that's gone on with King, I started watching crime channels and I started watching, like interrogations and things like that because I wanted to understand how people could be so evil. I wanted to understand how people could go from a place of no conscience and hurt people that are innocent, because I've never experienced it in my own life. And I think most of you are like that too. Most of us don't live lives where we have crimes happen to us directly or people that we love. We don't have people kidnapped. We don't have people murdered next to us or people like, crimes happening. It's kind of like, oh, that happens on the news or to somebody else. But I promise you, if you don't educate yourself, you are going to, because the world is changing so rapidly, and with the internet, it means that criminals are closer to you than you even realize. The people that you chat online with, some of them are criminals, and I'm talking about, I don't mean real I mean like, people that are dangerous. So if you don't start to educate yourself and watch these shows about human psychology, about crime, about, how these women end up dead, how so many black women end up in abusive relationships where they end up gone and missing. If you don't watch those shows to understand the kind of people, characters that are out there and how they got to that place, you or somebody you love could be in that situation, and before you know it, you'll be like, how did this happen? Because if I had watched this many years ago, I think I would save myself and protected myself and others from these situations a lot quicker. And I'm sure if King had too, he would have been very clued in about who these characters were from the beginning, because the one thing that criminals do, or these sociopathic or psychopathic people do, is they love bomb people. They feed people with praise and, and adoration and even gifts sometimes. So they make you feel like, oh, this person really loves me. And I guarantee you that's what each of these people did when they first met King. This is why he had his guard down with them, or let his guard down, because he thought, these people are my greatest fans, these people love me, these people care about me. And that's how these psychopaths get into your lives, into other people's lives. These women who end up dead or missing are not stupid people, not all stupid people. Some of them are hugely intelligent. So how did they end up in those situations? Is because they were love bombed by somebody. They were love bombed in the beginning. They were told, oh, you're so beautiful, I'll do anything for you. We're going to get married, we're going to have children, we're going to And the man presented, the man of their dreams. But the character that was behind that is actually evil. And it's all a game to them. It's all a play. It's all a performance to them. It's not real. And unless you understand this about the characters that we're now dealing with in our world, you yourself could get trapped by the same person. And, even in a friendship or work situation, it doesn't need to be, a relationship. Sociopaths and psychopaths, they say 1 in 25 people are now sociopaths, and it's growing in number. So there's a growing level of evil as more people become less spiritual, less connected to God, less connected to themselves, and less connected to each other, because our world is changing. So you all need to be educated about all of this, through this situation. It's not enough for you just to learn about what happened to King. You have to learn about what's happening to other people and how it happened to them. Because to protect yourselves, you need to protect yourselves. You need to protect your children, your families, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins and other people around, your friends. You need to be able to advise them and to be able to see for them. If I hadn't had my medical training that I've had, that led me into more human psychology and all of that and personality disorders, I wouldn't be able to help King also understand more of this as well, because that's what I've been helping him with. Because, when I communicate with him, as little communication as I have with him, I try to tell him about the characters I'm seeing from my perspective outside here, that he trusts, that he continues to trust. Even now, he still gets a little bit caught up with people that love bomb him. And it's very hard for him because he's been disconnected from the world, the real world, for 30 plus years. He's been a celebrity for 30 years, more than 30 years. So he's not been in the real world. And the people around him have all been, to some level, just fanatics, like people that just tell him what he wants to hear. Oh, I love you, you're great, you're the king of R&B, you're fantastic. And he is all those things. But imagine if, you have a group of all these people around you that are saying all this stuff, but you're not connected to real people like me who are actually going to say, do you know, I love you, but I think this is what's really going on here. And you have to, you know what I mean? It's like you need real, authentic people around you. And he has not had that. He's not had that combination of love and authenticity. He's either had people that have been abusive towards him straight off the bat, or he's had people that have been narcissistic and sociopathic, so they tell him what he wants to hear until he does something that they don't like, and then all of a sudden now they want to destroy him. He's had more of those characters around him. And you imagine he's met thousands and thousands of people over those 30 years, maybe 1 million people, millions of people. So in those millions of people that he's met, there's been so many sociopaths and narcissists and even psychopaths, people that we would not meet in everyday life, because we tend to meet 1 or 2 people. Like if you're a normal person, you go to work or you go to school or you go to college or whatever, and you might have a group of friends, or you might meet 1 or 2 new people here and there, but you rarely meet the number of people he meets every week or every day, through concerts, through performances, through tours, through business, people he has to meet. So the level of the number of people that he has had to meet has been so much higher than the average person, which has exposed him to more of these antisocial personalities and people with personality disorders and mental health issues and evil intention. And he's not been prepared for that, because he's got a very pure heart. He doesn't expect this of humanity. He doesn't expect people to be evil. He expects goodness from people. And that's how I used to be like. I used to be so like that, more so than probably equal so to him. I used to think, wow, no, people will not hurt others. It's generally very few sociopaths and psychopaths in the world. But now the more I grow and the more people I mix with through travel, through business, the more I realize actually there's a lot of people out there that will mask to you that they are your friend, that they love you, that they care about you, and that they are good and even spiritual. The biggest con that people use is spirituality these days. So you've got to be careful of these people that are always talking about God and praying publicly and doing these acts of righteousness and community publicly, because they want you to think, oh, she or he's so great. They're the ones that, people use even that to pull you in, and then you find out they're evil behind the covers. You've got to all be careful out here. It's not the same world that we know, when you were a child and when I was a child, definitely not. It's getting worse, I think. And it's getting more and more in our homes as we have the internet, social media, and the more we move around as well, it's just getting worse. So unless you're all aware of this, there's such a beautiful world out there, Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. So, there's such a beautiful world out there for us all to enjoy. Like, I don't want to be like a downer, like a Debbie Downer, they call it, and just talk about the negativity. There's such a beautiful world for us to enjoy out there. So much beauty, so much love, so many courageous people, so many people doing beautiful things, and we've all got to focus on that. But also don't deny the contrast exists and could be closer to you than you even realize. You know what I mean? Especially black women in America. I really want to warn you. I've been blessed to live in countries where it's actually compared to America, very safe. America has a very huge problem with crime, huge problem with black women being abused and even going missing. And I can only implore you, if you're American, if you live in America, or even if you live somewhere where there is that high crime rate, that you just be careful about the people you meet and you let into your heart and into your home. I know that loneliness can drive you sometimes to actually allow in people that you would never, ever do that with, normally. Loneliness can make you just accept people that you would not normally if you weren't lonely. So especially if you're single, I really implore you to build a community around yourself to protect you. Don't be alone. Don't fall into that trap that, this ideology that's going around. I'll be independent and alone. No, don't be alone, because that makes you vulnerable. Build a community of people. Find like-minded people for yourself, How do you feel about the interviews Ronnie Bow putting out? Yeah, I think I just posted about that, Princess Di. This man, Ronnie Bow, is not unlike most of the people that are hustling out here. Everybody on YouTube, you've got to realize, is hustling for an income. I would say at least 90% of people. There's the 10% like myself that are here for advocating or to just tell a story, or just they don't want to profit in any form. I've never put out a cash app. I've never asked for money, and I don't need it. I don't want it. So there are people like myself that do that without an agenda. I don't want fame. I've already told you all that. Fame is definitely not my thing. I'm going into a famous world, and that's where I'm going, and I've made peace with that. That's part of King's life. I've made peace with it, but it's not my world. My world is medicine. But there are people, everybody else out here is hustling for money. So when you see somebody online, he's got a background in music that didn't do well, so you've got to see that the agenda there is very clear, that he wants to kind of make a name for himself using King's name. He's just come out of prison. He's got nothing. So he sees all these people making quick money by stories, and so you've got to see that this person is looking for, to be recognized, and so people can then go, wow, you do music as well? Let me listen to your music. It's very clear to me what he wants, you know what I mean? It's so there's no truth to what he's been saying. Look, this is the thing. I would not listen to anything just yet, because this is all going to come very clear. In terms of the whole Jay-Z thing. Hey, pretty. I've never thought Daddy to all the government. I know Ashley. Ashley, you have a way with words. Daddy Robert. Okay. All right. Yeah, so what was I saying? Just wait, just wait. These characters are going to become very clear when King is home within the coming days, because when King starts to talk, but he's got me with him, and he gets to talk the truth, not just what he has been told to say through his attorneys, like covertly. You'll get to hear who's actually telling the truth and who's actually been feeding you lies. A lot of some of these things that, like, especially that I hear that his guy is saying about him and Jay-Z, it's not new news. It's conspiracies that have been flying around YouTube for years. And I will tell you this, King does not speak about people. He never talks badly about people. He never slanders anybody. He can't even slander these people, these women that have done this to him. He cannot even talk badly about them. So you've got to think that somebody who can't talk badly about people that have done the worst to him, imagine as if he's going to go around and say that, or as if he's going to want somebody going on YouTube saying that, I think I've heard some of the things he said, that Jay-Z is trying to kill him. You've got to just think about King's character. That's not his character. So he's misportraying King as some kind of, lunatic, some kind of paranoid. Like, King has his moments of being, anxious and worried and concerned, as most people would. And in this situation, he has a right to, if anyone else, to conspire in his head about who might be after him. But I promise you, the last person he's mentioning as part of this is Jay-Z. So his issues with Jay-Z were 20 plus years ago, and King moved on from that. He's happy to even work with him. So I think that this guy is looking for attention of some kind, money of some kind. He's trying to build up his career. Again, he has nothing. He's just come out of prison. He's probably struggling to find work. Everybody on YouTube is hustling you for money. So you've got to always be aware of that. Everybody's trying to hustle. Everybody's trying to hustle on YouTube. It's not authentic. You cannot trust anybody. Like, all these YouTube channels that even post him are looking to make money off of him, because they grow numbers by posting about King. They grow numbers by posting about other people. That's their content. Their content is gossip and slander. So you've got to always think, what is this person after? I don't want you to become suspicious and just like, oh, everybody is after somebody, everybody's a liar. But I want you just to have a higher level of consciousness and intelligence and awareness of what people are doing out on YouTube, so that you don't get fooled and pulled into all of this stuff. So, in terms of, I haven't listened to be honest with you, Princess Di, I haven't listened to everything he said, because I've just got so much on my plate. The last thing I need is to listen to another person just claiming things that aren't true. I don't need to put that on my plate, and I don't need to put that in my energy either, because I know what's true. I know what's important. What he's saying is clearly not important to helping King come home any faster, or clearing up any of the things that have happened to him. It's just more conspiracies and more hearsay, and it's all damaging. Like, if he really cared about King, he wouldn't be online saying that King is saying these things against other people. That's not somebody who cares. You think about it. If you had a friend who went online and said, oh, so-and-so said this about this person, I mean, is that your friend, or is that a foe? Is that an enemy? So you've just got to be wise about all of that, I think. And in saying that, guys, I've got to go. My time is up. I've got things to do, and I'm so sorry, but we'll do this again sometime. And I hope you enjoyed this. Kisses and love to you all, and please just keep us both in your prayers, and we will talk soon, right? Anyway, right, I don't think... Yeah, exactly. I mean, anyone who has a friend who's ever gone somewhere and said, oh, so-and-so said this, it's not good. It's not good. Anytime anybody's saying, unless they're like defending your name or character, as I've been doing, which is a whole different thing. I've never said any hearsay. I've only said what I've experienced myself. That's why I don't talk about everybody. that's been part of this, because there's some things, some stories only King can fill in. It's not stuff that I can fill in for you guys, that he has to talk about, but I can talk about what I know, and which is evidence that for me, this conspiracy has happened against him. All this is hearsay. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, please come again when I go online again. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully it, yeah, thank you, Princess Di. And thank you for like contributing to the conversation, and in a positive way as well. Anyway, keep fighting. Let's keep fighting and praying. Yes, but he should be home, Michelle. Listen back to the beginning and what I've said in the beginning. He's going to be home. Just listen out for some news, okay? And don't fret, don't worry, and don't speak doom. Don't speak doom or negativity at all in this situation. Just speak of what you want to see happen. Yeah. Okay, bye guys. Love you all. Thank you so much for joining me.